Okay. So I think for most of our partners and engineers already come, so we can start for the afternoon training. The first part is about the Sundray switch introduction. The first it's switch basic concepts. Uh, when we need to learn about the switch, we need to learn some words. The first is the backplane bandwidth. So uh, usually we talk about the backplane bandwidth. Do you know what this means? Actually, this parameter uh, usually to mark the total data exchange capability of the switch. So this number it's higher, and the exchange ability of the switch it's the performance will be better, right? So how we calculate this parameter about the bank plane bandwidth? Here, I just give you an example. The calculation formula is here. The number, the number of the ports, and times the corresponding port rate, and then times two, because the exchange data it's the for duplex mode, right? So here I can give you an example about a switch, a switch with 24 gigabit Ethernet port and four 10 gigabit SFP plus. So how about this switch, the backplane bandwidth? This is 24 ports and times 1 gigabit and times 2, and plus for 10 gig SFP for 10 gigabit and times 2, and then we get 12.8 Gbps, right? So this is the backplane of this switch. It's the maximum amount of the data that can be handled between the switch interface processor and the network card. For the next, it's the switch capacity. For the switch capacity, it has two layer. The first is layer 2 packet forwarding rate. The second is layer 3 packet forwarding rate. So how to calculate the switch capacity of each switch? Here also we give the formula. The first is the number for the layer 2 packet forwarding rate. You need to know the numbers of the gigabit ports, and it times 1.488 Mbps, and then you need to calculate how many fast Ethernet ports, and it times 0.1488 Mbps. And also in the switch, in the switch maybe there has other ports like 10 gigabit ports, right? So just plus the other type of ports and times the corresponding calculate methods, and then you can get the switch capacity, the layer 2 packet forwarding rate. And this rate, it's the switch can achieve layer 2 line speed forwarding, rate. Yeah. So for Sundray now, what kind of switch we have? For the co-switch, for the co-layer switch, we have actually the four models. The co-layers equipment usually accounts for most of investment in the network planning and design, because the co-layer equipment has the higher requirements for the redundancy, for the reliability, and for the transmission speed. So
Mm-mm.
here we make a conclusion of the features. It's the core level switch. It must be layer 3 supported, and it also need to support high transmission speed. And maybe in the core layer switch, it has a gigabit SFP or 10 gigabit port or higher, and it supports the redundancy, the link aggregation, stacking, and something. And also it need to support the QS to make uh, to control the traffic. For the aggregation switch, the aggregation layer switch is an aggregation point for the multiple access layer switch. So the aggregation layer switch unifies the access nodes and sometimes forwards and selects the routes. So for the aggregation switch, it must be able to handle all the traffic for access layer devices. And it also need to provide the uplink to the core layer. Uh, for the requirement of the aggregating layer switch, it also need to have the high forwarding performance and fewer interface and the higher exchange rate. So features are as follow. The first, the the aggregation layer, it need to help to choosing the road, right? So it needs support the routing, the road protocol redistribution, and static road, dynamic road, etc. Also, aggregation layer switch, it need to support access control list, and also routing between VLANs and functions, and supported by the other working groups. Um, the last one, it's the aggregation layer. It need to define the multicast area and the broadcast area. So this layer is mainly where the strategy it's implemented. And for the access layer switch, for this part, the switch usually facing the user connection. So, for example, now in your office, the desktop and the printer and the other terminal, like the camera, it's connected to the switch, and the switch we call it access layer. So, what's the features of the access layer? It must be the low cost and as much more ports as possible, because we have a lot of ports. We can connect as more devices. So the first is access layer switch has a low cost. It need to be cheap enough. And the second, the high port density characteristics, because we need more ports to connect to the device. And sometimes because the access layer switch is not rank mounted in the server room, so you need it to be the small size. Next, I will introduce you about our Sundray, the code switch. It's the S0 code switch. This device is it's supported. It's consists of the chassis and the power system, and also needs a ventilation system and the cooling system. Also, you can combine the different of the line cards to the devices. Here, I just give you one example of our ICE 8514. Actually, this model at the present, this model is the uh, highest model of Sundray code switch. For this one, it can support 18 boards. As you can see, in the from the bottom to the top, there is 14 slots, and for the slots 13 and 14, this is for the main processing unit. It's for the control board, and for the slots from 1 to 12, this is for the line processing unit. Especially from the 5 to the 8, these four slots can support the line processing unit up to 160 G BPS. So if you configure all the line board to these devices after and then you can calculate the switch capacity, the backplane bandwidth, and you will say, wow, this is an amazing number. And also you can support 1200 watts power. So to keep these devices power supply. And in the background, it also has the four SFC. This is the swap board, and the cooling system also in the background has 8 cooling fans. Here is the code switch hardware parameter for this 4 model. Just now we talked about it's the S8514, right? So the switch capacity 85.2 TBPS. Actually, this number is already much more than the aggregation layer switch, and also the packet forwarding rate. It's also an amazing number. So this is for the code switch, and Sundray also has the aggregation switch and the access layer switch. So let's see this part. For this part, we all of this model, the name it's RS at the beginning. For example, the optical switch RS 6500 or RS 5300. Actually, for the start character RS5, this number 5, actually it means it has 10 gigabit ports for the uplink. And for the 6300, the number 6, it means it has more higher. For example, it has a 20G SFP or 40G SFP. And for the other, it's the access layer switch and the PoE switch. Okay, for this switch, I already make a table here to combine all the switch here. So for this table, we can see all the RS switch. This one can be managed by our Sundray controller. And for each switch, how many gigabit ports, how many SFP ports, or 10 gig SFP port already be showed in this page. So maybe you already get a project and you want to know what model from Sundray can compete with the competitors. So after we compare with this table, we can know. For example, in some projects, we get the parameter of the other competitor, and they need, for example, they have the 48 gigabit ports and 2 SFP ports and 2 10 gig SFP port. So after we search this number in this table, we will find that the model RS 5300 52X PWR SI. We will find this model. It's almost the same with the competitor, right? And then we can propose this model to compare it. So I think for the basic switch introduction already finished.